So my name is Joanne, and I am coming in from New Paltz, New York, signing in with a small affiliate group of the Village Zendo, the New Paltz Zen Center here. So there's a handful of us sitting here, which is lovely, and it's great to join you all in the Cyber Zendo and to see everyone in the mothership as well, sitting there. So a bow of great gratitude to everyone who makes this happen, to Jisei and all our online hosts and physical hosts at the Zendo, and for all of you to come and make it into the container that we practice in when we come together in this way. So I'm really glad we have this opportunity to do this. I was struck today by coming to the physical Zendo. I leave my house and I walk up a driveway that's a fair length to this small little cabin. Some of you have been here, tucked back up the driveway. And the drive after the past few years has really gotten chewed up with plowing that maybe wasn't so skillful and copious amounts of rainfall. And so there were a lot of potholes, and I'm very excited to say that my path today was a bit smoother as we had a big truckload of gravel arrive yesterday and get spread out into some of the big potholes. So hopefully for those of you who came, your car's suspension thanks you, or thanks the people who've done the driveway. But sometimes our path has bumps, and sometimes our path is smooth, but we still just stay on the path, step after step. So today, here in New Paltz, and maybe where you are as well, it's fairly gray and overcast, and there's some rain that started already, but it's still a fall morning. You can feel the fall in the air, and often I share in the fall about the changing leaves, that they're not actually really changing. The colors that are there, the reds and the yellows and browns, have been there all along. And it's just the busyness of the chlorophyll that has hidden those colors from us. So, the colors of nature always remind me of fall, always remind me of our true nature. It's always there, just maybe under the surface, maybe hidden by our busyness of clinging and pushing away, and the things that our mind, so naturally does. And so while the sky is overcast, I still feel sort of protected and embraced by the lowness of the sky. It's like a blanket. So I find it kind of welcoming today. Being tasked with offering a Dharma talk or Dharma words is always fairly daunting. I don't think there's any of us that do this that feel like, oh yeah, I got this. It's easy, and particularly because at least in the Zen school, there's nothing I have to offer you that you don't already have. Where your sits bones meet your cushion, where they meet your chair, you have it. Like those colors and those leaves, there's nothing I can give you that you don't already fully possess. And yet I'm tasked with sharing something, sparking some sort of fire, or helping to put out some sort of fire in you. My words are supposed to do that somehow. And it's extra difficult in times that we're in, like now, in this past week, when we've been witnessing so much tumult and so much tragedy and unthinkable atrocities. It just adds to what can I possibly offer you at a time like this. So I am a registered nurse, as probably most of you know, maybe some of you don't, and probably not a lot of you know that I've decided to go back to school, and I'm working on a master's degree in holistic nursing. I've kind of kept it tucked under my kesa for fear of deciding to back out, and I might still, who knows. It's a lot of work to pull off 6 master's level credits, and take care of the abbot of the Zendo, my aging dog, and have a relationship with my partner, and go to work full time. It's a lot, and it feels like a good fit right now. That holistic nursing and my history as a massage therapist and my Buddhist practice all seem to be kind of a good fit and coming together in a good way. And it's really refreshing to write and offer something that I don't have to necessarily cite or write in APA format. That was a blessing, even though it was an added thing. It was really nice not to have to write in the third person and make it sound scholarly. So I hope that what I offer you today is that. So while I'm recognizing that I'm very busy and that my life looks a lot like read, write, work, sleep, read, write, work, sleep, I could be busy in a very different way. I could be busy burying a loved one. I could be busy cowering in a bomb shelter. I could be busy deciding to gather my belongings and walk south to maybe or maybe not find a place of safety, or maybe feel that walking south was more dangerous because I'm being told to stay where I am is safer. I could be busy in that way. So the busyness of having a career and seeking a graduate degree and writing papers is truly a luxury to be busy in that way, when we all know we have been probably in our own lives and could certainly be busy in a very different way. So holistic nursing, not surprisingly, is focused on holism. And, it's not just lavender and crystals and acupressure and guided meditation. It's those things too, but it's really deeply rooted in theories of holism, of recognizing all the energies that are present, the patient, yourself, the environment the patient's in, all of those things come into play in holistic nursing. And so I might look at it from the Zen perspective or from our lineage as, using all the ingredients, or nothing left out, room for everything, phrases we've heard Enkyo Roshi and her teachers and all the village Zendo teachers share with us. So a lot of the program focuses on theory, nursing theory. And in my undergraduate work that had a little grad work added to it, we had a lot of theory, and most of us sort of balked at it. Theory doesn't put in an IV. Theory doesn't do chest compressions. Theory doesn't clean wounds or wipe butts. It doesn't. And I've always sort of looked at the theorists sitting around tables, congratulating each other on their deep understanding without actually being bedside. So theory isn't there, I would say, when the rubber hits the road. It's not. I'm changing my view on it a bit now that I've drank the Kool-Aid and I'm part of this grad program and I'm forced to, and I see that theory guides nursing practice, and nursing practice, feeds theory, and it has its place. And it also makes me think a bit about Buddhist scholarship, and please know, I've got shelves and shelves of Buddhist books, and we all know that books on Zen, and literature on Zen far exceed all other forms of Buddhist literature. There's just tons and tons of it, and I'm thankful for the scholars that do the deep research and do the archaeological digging up of where texts came from, and translating and all of that. The philosophy and understanding of our practice is extremely important, but it's not why we sit. It's not to understand. We don't sit to figure out. We don't sit to find some singular answer. And maybe you are. And if you are, I guess I would say good luck with that. There's so much more to our Zazen, to our practice. So there is a famous nursing theorist, Martha Rogers, who I'm sure not a single person here has heard of. and may it stay that way. And yet, she's huge in our, she's big in Japan. She's huge in our nursing academia. And she was an early theorist who, and shared a birthday with Florence Nightingale. So this was certainly in her blood, or maybe in her stars. But she was the first to really recognize that health of an individual is beyond the periphery of their skin sac. And, as I said earlier, she looked at these, multitudinous energy fields that were intersecting, and that were, factors of health. And in a course I'm taking in psychoneuroimmunology, we're really looking at what happens when there's connection, what neurotransmitters, what hormones are released. And when there's connection and trust, we're flooded with oxytocin. We feel good, we trust, we feel connected. And when we feel othered and separate and, not a part of, all the opposites come into being. And, cortisol's levels rise, C-reactive protein levels rise. And we can carry those traumas, from these hormones in our body. So our very body, is affected. And those bodies around us by that, experience in small self. So her theories have influenced many other theories in nursing. They've been a basis for a lot and have been influenced by theories outside of nursing. And actually, just recently, I wrote a paper, because I do that every week, at least a couple, on a nursing theorist, Dunn, who has a theory called compassion energy theory. And it's really Avalokiteshvara. As I read it, I was like, oh, she's just talking about the Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara, but using nursing terminology. And I tied it into a very famous complexity theorist you might have heard of, Dr. Neil Sotin Thies. So for once, I got to cite something in a paper that was really, I was excited about. I got to put Thies, 2023, at the end of my paper, and put it a handful of times throughout the paper. And I daren't speak on complexity as we have a resident, pro in our midst. But when you look at complexity theory in a really titrated down way, what it's looking at is systems, from the very, very small subatomic to, organizations and governments, and how they self-organize, and find patterns within themselves, so atoms, tissues, organs, societies, so on. And how we see it really depends on where we stand. So are we at the microscope, zooming in really, really closely, or are we, at the telescopic lens looking back a bit from it? But either way, I feel we have this strong, I don't feel we do. We have this strong desire that's built in to know, to understand, to settle in a place. And in these recent weeks, I have heard lots and lots of opinions and lots of ideas, and lots of strong stances on this is right, this is wrong, not just in what's happening in Israel and Gaza now, but on a lot of things. We have it in healthcare a lot, hence why we have theories to address it. Ideas that are, this is the way it should be, this is how patient care should happen, this is what needs to happen. But particularly this past week, I've heard, and we've seen, all of us, really strong opinions. And when we're sitting around a table talking about theories and opinions, it's fairly innocuous. We can give up our ideas, maybe, a little more comfortably, be open to someone else's, perhaps. But when we're witnessing atrocities, when family members' lives are at risk, when we've, feel like we've got skin in the game, I think it's a bit different. So, as I said earlier, nursing theory doesn't put in IVs, and it doesn't do chest compressions. And Buddhist philosophy doesn't sit on a cushion. and it doesn't experience things as they are, moment after moment. It's a philosophy. So the 14th case of the Mumonkan. Once the monks of the Eastern Hall and the Western Hall were arguing about a cat. Nansen, holding up the cat, said, "Monks, if you can say a word of Zen, I will spare the cat. If you cannot, I will kill it." No monk could answer. Nansen finally killed the cat. In the evening, when Joshu came back, Nansen told him about the incident, and Joshu took off his sandal, put it on his head, and walked off. Nansen said, "If you'd been there, I could have saved the cat." You know, the koans in the Mumonkan, so many of them, I think, are point to some of our ethical teachings in Buddhism. You know, you could link them to our precepts, and yet here we have Nansen killing the cat. So it's shocking. I think for the first time you hear it or you read it, it's a bit shocking. And so perhaps now that I've shared this koan, you're wanting to understand it. A huge desire to settle on what it means, you know, has risen in you. I know it happens for me. You know, I want to understand it. I want to fall on a side. And Shibayama, who the translation that we use mostly in the Village Zendo is Shibayama Roshi's translation. And in his commentary on this, he cautions us to not see this koan as ignoring ethical teachings. And in fact, he's saying that, you know, it's really a deep ethical teaching. So it frees us. His argument is that it frees us from the suffering and being caught in ethics to really understand and to master them and to use them freely. So I see him asking us to step away from the academic table, you know, and to recognize the holism, to recognize no separation, and, you know, to recognize in no separation that we are separate, and in our separation to see the other fully. So at the actually, I want to share something else. I was, you know, scrolling around, looking at this koan and commentaries and people's writings on it as I was preparing for the talk, and I came across Hogen Roshi from Great Vow Monastery had spoken on this, and he brought up the story of King Solomon in the Bible, and I was just sort of struck. You know, here's an Abrahamic, you know, story shared by many different faiths of two women who are arguing over a baby, you know, whose baby it is, you know, both saying, "This baby is my baby. It belongs to me. I gave birth to this child. It's my child." And King Solomon said, "Okay, I'll solve the problem. I'll cut the baby in half and give each of you a half of the baby." And one woman said, "No, no, no, don't do that. The other woman can have the baby." And Solomon knew that that was her child. So in, you know, in relinquishing our desire to land on one side, to have one thing, maybe we put the sandal on our head. Maybe we can, you know, see the wholeness of the whole situation. Doesn't mean it changes per se, but we can see the whole situation. So at the end of these koans, in the Mumonkan, in the commentary, they're, you know, often great masters who say a bit about them as short things. So Master Seko said, a sword straight away cuts it in two. And then Dogen, in a different light, said, a sword straight away cuts it, no cut. Is there room for both of those to be true? You know, it's not a cat at all, is it? It's not really a cat. You know, we don't have to call the ASPCA. I have 3 cats, you know, that I love dearly, 3 hairless sphinx. And so I hear this story and I worry, you know, as a cat lover. But it's not a cat that's being held up. So what's being held up for you today? What's in front of you? You know, say a word of Zen. What's held up in front of you? You know, is it a theory? Is it a religious ideology? Is it a strip of land along a sea? You know, what is it that's held up in front of you? So Zazen offers us an opportunity to step back, to do a timeout, if you will, uh, and maybe become a little more telescopic and a little less microscopic in our vision. And you know, I teach mindfulness, MIEA, MIA, they call it. It used to be called Koru. I think I shared with some of you, and it's a Mindfulness Institute for Emerging Adults. And I teach this at Marist, where I'm a nurse, and I teach it to college students. And you know, it's not Zen, but it offers these emerging adults really good medicine. And one of the images they use that I always sort of think to myself, that's a little bit dumbed down, but maybe it's not, is that we have two types of mind. We have thinking mind and we have observing mind. And, you know, when we're caught up in our thinking mind, you know, that cat's definitely going to get killed, you know. But when we're able to observe and really fully see, you know, without our tendency to get caught by our opinions, our likes, our dislikes, our aversions, our desires, and just fully be present, you know, maybe we can save the cat. So as Zen students, we're asked to bear witness to everything, to be like Avalokiteshvara and to hear the cries of the world. But, you know, I'm also a holistic nurse now. So please be careful with secondary trauma. You know, I just want to say, outside of this Dharma talk, watch yourself. You know, the media really wants to help you with that and wants to feed it to you. Pay attention, pay attention. Know, see, but also, you know, be careful not to overdo it. Maybe, you know, to take breaks, to sit zazen, to walk outside, and come back when you can. You know, because your limbic system and your cortisol and your C-reactive protein will thank you. You know, find moments to create oxytocin, to be connected, to be with friends, to settle, you know, like we are today. So can you take your shoes off and put them on your head? You know, and that there's commentary that says in China that was a sign of mourning to put your shoes on your head. You know, and I think of when we had our Japanese dignitary here who was showing us to bow, saying, put your head further into the mat, further, lower in, you know. So can you really dive in, you know, and fully be there? How would that look? And how do you respond to the cat that's in front of you today, or the cat that will arise tomorrow in front of you? Perhaps, as I said, it looks just like being with a friend and listening to them, hearing them, being with them fully. Or maybe it's making a donation to an organization that you feel strongly about or feel is doing good for others, whatever that organization may be. Or maybe you just don't know, you know, and that's okay too, you know, because in Zen, not knowing is most intimate. So if you don't know, just don't know. Just don't know. So we're in this difficult time, you know, and in some ways we always are. You know, if we pay attention, we can see the difficulties of the world we live in. And maybe the desire to pick a side and to argue and to be right is strong for you. But I encourage you to just pay attention and to lean into your practice in times like this for that support and for that solace. And as a cat lover, I beg you, if you can, say a word of Zen and save a cat. Do it. Do it. I'm going to leave you with a poem. I did some searching. I was looking for Palestinian poets and Israeli poets And by accident, I came across an American poet and peace activist who is Jewish, Rick Lupert, and he lives in Los Angeles. And this poem is actually a series of smaller poems that I believe are supposed to be read strung together. If I'm doing it wrong, Rick Lupert, I'm sorry, but that's the way I'm going to read this poem, a series of small poems put together. And he titled the whole thing, Feeding Holy Cats, a few poems from Israel. Waiting for a taxi in Jerusalem, you can see your entire life drive before your eyes. Medical advice from religious lady. They should play harps instead of using Prozac, says the woman at the biblical harp store. I suppose at the Prozac store, they don't speak too highly of biblical harps either. At the Kotel, bushes emerge from the western wall. One wonders if Herod was a gardener. I daven at the men's side. Egalitarianism hasn't reached the old city. Paper yarmulke on my head, right hand touching Roman stone. I say all the words I can remember. A boy becomes bar mitzvahed behind me. We finish at the same time. Back away. The wall gets bigger. The sun melts winter away, lights up the wall. Once again, Jerusalem of gold. Feeding holy cats, I fed half the cats in the Negev desert today. I'll get the rest tomorrow.